The guard statement in Swift acts like a strict security guard at the door of a function. So usually there is a precondition, and that precondition has to be met, or else our function returns early. So usually we write a function here, and then we write our guard statement, and then we set our precondition. Now this precondition, if it's not met, then the function returns early. So the core concept of the guard statement is early exit. So usually Swift won't allow us to get past this without including a return statement here. Now, depending on what you're working with, this might be another statement entirely, maybe a throw or break or continue. But in this case, we have return. So if this precondition was met, this print statement runs. If it's not met, the function returns its exit early by defaulting to this else block like this. So this function is saying match person. It takes a parameter name, and then here we're setting name to Sydney Sweeney. So if the parameter here at the point of passing that's an argument here happens to be Sydney Sweeney, then this print statement gets executed. Otherwise, you just get no match. So in this case, I'm invoking the function here, and I'm setting the name argument to Taylor Swift. So which means this precondition is not met. So we're going to be getting this instead. So if I were to run this, let's see what we get. Did it run? I think I'm just going to do this manually. I'm going to go to view and then terminal. Then we see what we get in debug console. So it says no match. Okay. As we expect. And then if I were to change this to Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney, then I believe this should say let's run this and let's see what we get. Okay, so this run says congratulations, you've been matched with Sydney Sweeney. So which means our precondition was met here. Okay, now another thing that GATT statement helps us achieve is a clean code. It the goal is to reduce our indent level as much as possible so that we don't keep wrapping our code in an if block. So consider a scenario, for instance, say we're trying to do some kind of input validation. Maybe we write a function, it takes arguments, and then we want to verify that the argument makes sense before running some kind of a complex logic. I'm going to show you the if block way, and then we're going to look at how we can clean things up using the guard statement. So I think I'm done with this for this demonstration. This match person. So I think I'm just going to comment this out, and then I think I have code here. Okay, I'm going to push this up a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to uncomment this, or perhaps so that okay. No, that's not what I want. So I'm going to uncomment this like this. Okay, I want this to be as bold as possible. Okay, so this is what we have. We have, this is the messy way. Uh, we have function register user, and is this function is taking two parameters, username and age. So we want to do some kind of input validation check before running some kind of logic here. So we look for the length of username. Is it greater than or equals to 3? That is the if condition here. So then inside here we want to check if age is greater than or equals to 18. Then we want to print username register successfully. Else we want to print error. Age must be 18 or older. Or else we want to print username is too short. So you get the idea what we're trying to do here. But when you look at it, you realize that it's a bit messy. I don't know. Should I just so here if we do here I can do register. So let's say here I put Ola, and then here I do 17. Then I save this just to show you that the function works. So it's building. Okay. Okay, so it's the error. Age must be 18 or older. So that's like, this is what we have here. Anyway, I want you to take one last look at this. You see, it's quite messy. Now, I'm going to show you the clean way. So I'm going to comment this out. And then for the clean way, I'm just going to like cut this. And then for the clean way, let's look at it. So this is the clean way with guard statement. So I'm going to comment this like so. Now look at what we have. This isn't quite what I want. Okay, now look at our guard statement. Okay, I think we have breathing space now. Okay, now so we have just like before. So we have username like that. Now look at this clean approach. Guard. This is our precondition. Username.count greater than or equals to 3. Else we just print that and then we'll return. The same way we're validating for age. See, compared to what we had initially, you realize this is much cleaner. I'm not going to go ahead and run this because you already know what this is going to give us, because like we did the other time, it's the same program as what we had before, only that this gives us a cleaner way to check our condition. And then I believe it also reduces our indent level, so we don't keep doing if block, if else like we did up here before now. Okay, so that's another thing we can achieve with guard statement. Now, another thing we can do with guard statement is we can use guard statement to unwrap optionals, and then these optionals, they're going to remain in scope even outside of the curly braces where our guard statement was written. So I think it's better demonstrated than me just me just talking about it. So I'm going to comment this out again, and we're done with this. I didn't want to go through the hassle of writing it from the ground up, so I'm just going to uncomment this. Okay. We've not gotten here, so let's not. Now look at this display profile. We have this function, says display profile, and then it's expecting an argument. The argument is a dictionary. So the label is JSON, and then it's expecting a dictionary, the key string, and then the value is any type. Okay. Now we have a get statement here. We have get let name. Name is a string. So JSON name as string. Now these are optional values. So avatar to is optional, point optional. So what is it? So these are JSON name. It's the key of a dictionary. So as string. So we're setting the key to what is it called? We're setting the key as name. Is that quite right? No, it's not quite right. So name is the key, which is string. Or what am I doing? String any key, okay, and then any, which is our value. Okay, so we're setting JSON name as a string, JSON avatar as string, and then JSON point as an integer here. So the point I'm trying to make is all of these are optional values. Now, outside of this lexical scope, when we have done the unwrap, we're still able to access the values of our variables name, avatar, and point outside of this lexical scope. Now, if you were to use a if block, for instance, if statement, what's going to happen is the unwrap variable is only going to be available inside this place, inside this lexical scope. But then we're using get statement, so the unwrap variable still remains available to us for the entire remainder of our scope. That's why even though name, avatar, points, even though they were made here, they were made here, outside of this scope, although we're still inside this function, but then these three variables were made here, or is a constant in this case, and then we're still able to access them here. So I'm going to save this. Obviously, I have to define, I have to invoke this, and then I have to specify what this dictionary is going to be. So I'm just going to do, I'm going to do, what should I call it? Let user detail. User details. So it's going to be, okay. I need to explicitly, so it's going to be string and then any, like so, and then I'm going to set this to the first one, that's name, so I'm going to do name. I'm going to call this John. Now the second key, which is the avatar, so I'm going to do avatar, and I'm going to specify just some kind of random path here, assets. Then I'm going to do img.png, like so, and then there is points. So points, I'm going to call that 25, like so. So this is our dictionary. You know, it's this display profile is receiving, it's expecting a dictionary as inputs when we invoke it later on. So initially we're setting the values as optional here, and then we're unwrapping it, and then we're making use of it here. So if I were to invoke this function here, then we can do display profile, and then I can just pass user details here like so, and then I'm going to save this, and then if everything works fine, we can have username is John, avatar is this, and then score is going to be this. Okay, so let's see what we get. I'm going to run this. Okay, so we're getting an output. So it says username John, which is what we set here as the value. Remember, throughout we kept our keys as string, as we should have, because it's string, then any has the value type. So the value is kind of a dynamic, so that's why point is integer here. So avatar this, and then 25 points as we expect. Okay. Another thing we can do with get statement is we can use the get statement to verify that our app or system is in the correct state before proceeding with an operation. Maybe people in game development might be familiar with something like this. But then before we get into me explaining, I'm just going to comment this out again, and then I'm going to show uncomment the code I have written for that. So we have a class here. I don't think we've talked about class yet. Then we're going to get into that. So we have this class. Okay. So I'm going to comment this out. It's looking like, does it go up? No. Okay. So we have this. I want to display everything at once, so which means I'm going to have to minimize this. I'm sorry about that. If that wasn't bold enough, we have to be able to display all of this. So now we have this class game session, and then in here we have those class variables logged in, which is a boolean true, and then remaining lives are 3, and then completed, which is a bool false. All right, now we have a function here. This function says start hard level, and then inside this function we have a couple of guard statements. So here it's guarding, okay, guard logged in. So here we've set these variables here. Logged in is the meaning is set to true. So if this precondition is met, then this print statement entering hard mode level, good luck, this runs. If it wasn't met, well, we have an early exit through this return statement. So it prints this, redirecting to login screen. That is, if login was false by the time we run this, then we get this. The same thing with the second guard statement, remaining lives, if it's greater than 0, so this is the condition, or is a precondition now. Remaining lives is at 3 here, so you expect that this precondition is met, and then it goes to here, and then completed as well. If completed is true, this runs, otherwise we get prompting to complete game first. So this is a class. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an object here. So let's do okay, I would like to modify something. So let's say result is going to be equals to, okay, game session here, like so. And then here, if we do, what am I doing? Then we do print result dot start hard level. So this. So I want to invoke this function on this object first, and then let's see what we get. So we're going to be using this class variables as they are, and then we're going to go through and go ahead with what we have here, and then I'm going to modify things later on. So I'm going to run this. Okay, so let's view what we have. Terminal, and then debug console. Okay, it says prompting to complete game first. So that's what we have. So which means one of our precondition was not met, which is completed. So I'm thinking completed is false. Aha. So completed has to be true for this print to work. So it didn't work, so which means our completed was false. But then I can modify that. We can modify that by coming here, and then we say, what do? We can do result dot completed. Then you set that to true. And then I'm going to save that. So I've overwritten this using the result object. I've overwritten it completed. It was set to false inside of this class. Now I've overwritten it to true. So which means this condition is going to be met now. And then we should be able to print this to our console. So I'm going to run this again. All right, so it says entering hard mode level, good luck, like we expected. All right, and then we can modify these as we like. We can modify the values of these variables, or is it field now, with respect to the class. And then we can modify using the result object here, and then we can play with it as we like. So I don't want to waste too much of our time, so I'm going to uncomment this. I think I'm done with this demonstration now, and then I'm going to go to the last but not the least example that we have here. Now look at this situation. I won't confuse you, so I'm going to like uncomment this, and then since this is the last one, I think we can embolden this like so. Okay, now what we're trying to do here is we're trying to demonstrate how we can use a GAT statement to process items in a loop. By using GAT statement in this scenario, we can skip invalid items or even stop the loop immediately by using loop control transfer statements. So look at this. We have an array of product list, and we have these items in our product list array, and then we're doing a for loop for prod in product list, and then inside our for loop we have some gather statements. As prefix, what it does is it returns a boolean by it checks for the substring of our string. So the prefix in our string has to be exactly as this for as prefix to return true, and then it's also case sensitive, so it has to be exactly the same case as we have in our item. So That's another thing we should keep in mind. So the first guard statement here is saying skip the item, skip the product if it is marked as expired. And then here it says this guard statement, which is prod dot has prefix, then this is prod. It's saying stop processing if the product is invalid. So if these preconditions, if they return true, if they are met, then this importing valid product, this print statement gets executed. Now, in the event of this, continue. What continue does is it continues with the when the it carries on with the iteration, goes on to the next iteration. That's what continue does. In the case of break, it just breaks out of the iteration entirely. So that's the difference between continue and break. Continue carries on with the next iteration. Break just breaks out of everything. Okay, so I'm going to save this and then I'm going to run this and let's see what we get. So I'm going to run this. Okay, so it's running. It's building. Okay, now you see what we get. We get importing valid products. It's a loop. We have product 102, product 505. Skipping expired item here. Skipping expired item because why? In the event of this didn't return true anyway, right? Because we have expired item here. So it says skipping expired item this. And then because we have continue, it continues on to the next iteration. So that's why here we're able to do importing valid product 301, which is the last item here. That's what continue does. If I were to do break here, it's never going to get to product. It's never going to get to product 301. So I'm going to save this and let's see. I'm going to save and then I'm going to run this. Just to drill in the difference between continue and break statement. You see? So it never got to this because once it gets to this iteration, it just break. It never goes on to the next iteration, which is why we're not getting this. So that's the difference between break and continue. Perhaps I might want to do something like this just to maybe if you didn't get this. Let's say for instance, if we do for high in 1 to 100. So for instance, this is a close range. And then we can say, let's say guard. I don't want to do guard. Okay, let's use guard. Guard high modulus 8. If it is equals to 0, we want to continue. Otherwise, what's going on here? Okay, we want to continue else. Okay, and then here we want to print high. So here we iterating from 1 to 100. So this is a closer what is it called? The closer range, the lower value and then the highest value here. So because we have continue here, this thing keeps going on to the next iteration when this condition is met. So if I run this, I don't want to mess this up because think I'm done with product list. So I'm going to comment this out so that we just focus on this one. Okay, so let's save this and let's see. So it's running. What do we get? Okay, so now we get all these values, 8, 16, on and on like that. So as when that condition is met, it goes on to the next iteration and the next one because of this continuous statement. If I were to put break here, let's see what we're going to get. So it's running. So what do we get? We didn't even get anything. You see the difference? Okay. So I think that's all for our get statement. Hope to see you soon.